Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's class. It's from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 5, and text 20 this morning. We're also fortunate to have His Grace Balabhadra Prabhu ISKCON Atlanta to give the class. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Very well.
It's all yours.
Okay. Clear my throat. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. So reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Volume 1, Chapter 5, Text 20. Chintamani Bhumi Kalpa Vriksha Mayavana Karma Chakshe Deke Tare Prapanchera Sama Chintamani Bhumi Kalpa Vriksha Mayavana Karma Chakshe Deke Tare Prapanchera Sama Chintamani Bhumi Kalpa Vrikshamayavana Charma Chakshe De Ketare Prapanchera Sam. Next.
Chintamani Bhumi Kalpa Vikshamaya Vana Chama Chakshire Ketare Prapanchera Sama. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Some of them are at work and they're not at liberty to
That's
speak
okay.
out. Yeah.
Word for word. Chintamani Bhumi, the land of touchstone. Kalpa Vriksha Maya, full of desire trees. Vana, forest. Charma, Chakshe, the material eyes. Deke, see. Tade, it. Papanchera Sama, equal to the material creation. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The land there is touchstone, Chintamani, and the forest abound with desire trees. Material eyes see it as an ordinary place. Purport. By the grace of the Lord, his dhammas and he himself can all be present simultaneously without losing their original importance. Only when one fully develops an affection and love of Godhead can one see those dhammas in their original appearance. Srila Narottama Das Thakur, a great Acharya in the preceptorial line of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had said for our benefit that one can perfectly see the dhammas only when one completely gives up the mentality of lording it over material nature. One's spiritual vision develops proportionately to one's giving up the debased mentality of unnecessarily enjoying matter. A diseased person who has become diseased because of a certain bad habit must be ready to follow the advice of the physician. And as a natural sequence, he must attempt to give up the cause of the disease. The patient cannot indulge in the bad habit and at the same time expect to be cured by the physician. Modern materialistic civilization, however, is maintaining a diseased atmosphere. The living being is a spiritual spark, as spiritual as the Lord himself. The only difference is that the Lord is great and the living being is small. Qualitatively, they are one, but quantitatively, they are different. Therefore, since the living being is spiritual in constitution, he can be happy only in the spiritual sky, where there are unlimited spiritual spheres called Vaikunthas. A spiritual being conditioned by a material body must therefore try to get rid of his disease instead of developing the cause of the disease. Foolish persons engrossed in their material assets are unnecessarily proud of being leaders of the people, but they ignore the spiritual value of man. Such illusion leaders make plans covering any number of years, but they can hardly make humanity happy in a state conditioned by the threefold miseries inflicted by material nature. One cannot control the laws of nature by any amount of struggling. One must at last be subject to death, nature's ultimate law. Death, birth, old age, and illness are symptoms of the disease condition of the living being. The highest aim of human life should therefore be to get free from these miseries and go back home, back to Godhead. Om Agyanati Mirandasa Jananjanan Salakaya. Chakshul Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadam Maya Dadate Swapadantikam. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So as I was reading this purport, what comes to mind is the reference to Srila Narottam Das Thakur, a great acharya in the preceptorial line of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he has said, for our benefit, that one can perfectly see the Dhammas only when one completely gives up the mentality of lording it over material nature. So I was trying to find one of his bhajans where he specifically makes a statement to that effect. And I found several of his bhajans that refer to the spiritual sky. I couldn't find exactly this one, or maybe this is in his writings, but it just really, I don't know, it just really gave me a sense of peace, excitement, anticipation about the mood of the actual devotee towards his eternal life in the spiritual world. And I'm going to read some of those because they're really, really very special and very beautiful. And also a couple of verses from Srila Prabhupada's song that he wrote on the Jaladuta, referring to the spiritual world. So the spiritual sky from which we have come, it appears to be far, far away. But that spiritual mood or that spiritual atmosphere we can exist in while in this material world, if we do as has been described here, we don't increase the disease by engaging in activities that simply increase the disease condition. A diseased person who has become diseased because of a certain bad habit must be ready to follow the advice of the physician. So we know in this case, the primary physician for us is Srila Prabhupada. And we have access to the writings, teachings of great acharyas, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Six Goswamis, Narottam Das. But are we prepared to take their advice? And what would prevent us, or what would cause us to hesitate to take their advice? I remember once I had to go to the dentist, and the dentist gave me a prescription for, I think it was an antibiotic, but I read the label and it said, this may cause convulsions or even to the point of death. And I was thinking, why would I take this if it's going to be such a risk? So one may hesitate to take the advice of even Srila Prabhupada. Directly, Prabhupada is telling us something, and we may hesitate because of our being so long caught up in material illusion, thinking ourselves to be the doer of activities that are carried out by nature, according to Bhagavad Gita. So we get lost, we get entangled in the complicated meshes of material existence, and we can't see the forest for the trees. I know this is true for myself, but I would assume that many devotees might be going through the same thing. Trying to stay focused on Krishna consciousness while being tempted to become entangled in material misconceptions. And I'm going to speak specifically to us as ISKCON members, devotees of Krishna. Sometimes when we speak in terms of the materialistic world, that they need to do this, they should do this, or that Prabhupada is only speaking to them when he brings up these points, but actually speaking to us. He didn't write the books just for us to distribute and to convert people to Krishna consciousness. These books are the advice given by the physician, Srila Prabhupada, in order for us to become free from the entanglement of material life. Then he says, as a natural sequence, he must attempt to give up the cause of the disease by following the advice of the physician, Srila Prabhupada, and the acharyas. So that disease, then Prabhupada also says, the patient cannot indulge in the bad habit and at the same time expect to be cured by the physician. So we as devotees have to be careful not to continually engage in habits which are detrimental to our spiritual advancement. And as I said, it's not just we're talking to the materialistic people, we're hearing for ourselves. Question is, can we also become affected by these things? Yes. The answer is yes. Have we? Yes. Are we still? Yes. It's still happening in our movement and our lives. We're still to some degree confused. We haven't fully, at least I haven't, fully taken complete shelter of Srila Prabhupada's instructions. This past Sunday, I was speaking to some devotees at our new center here in Atlanta, and I tried to get them to appreciate Prabhupada before I even gave a lecture. Because what's the point of me just speaking and giving information if they're not accepting Prabhupada? It's a nice lecture. It's a philosophical discussion. People like philosophy. That's why they buy so many books on philosophy. And they study great philosophers of the world, whether it's in India or Aristotle, Plato, and all those people. But I asked them the simple question, why do you accept these people that you never met? You never met these people. And most, not most, but all of them were from India. I said, who in this room has met Gandhi? Not a single person raised their hand. I said, but I've met Prabhupada. And many of my associates, we met Prabhupada. We even touched his body. We heard him sing. We heard him preach, walked with him, talked with him. So why do you accept to follow the advice, the example of people you never met? And then you say to me, why do you accept Prabhupada? I have as much right to accept Prabhupada 100% as you have the right to accept any other historical person that you never met, even though I did meet Prabhupada. So they began, their ears, I could see their ears perking up a little bit when they put it into perspective that yes, Prabhupada, and I said, Prabhupada was just here. You can see him on video, you can hear his audio lectures, you can learn from him as if he's standing right in front of you. Why not take shelter? Like I said, that example when I saw on that bottle that this medicine might cause this problem, that, the reactions that you might get. And they warn you, be careful. But there are no reactions to following the advice of Srila Prabhupada with reference to our material disease. He's given the prescription, he's given the medicine, he's given the process, the diet, everything. And all we have to do is agree. So, and then he goes on. Modern materialistic civilization, however, is maintaining a disease atmosphere. So again, referring back to our movement, are we maintaining certain practices or habits which are preventing us from actually seeing or experiencing the mood of Vrindavan? I just put down one thought that Vrindavan, this is my words, Vrindavan, the land of cooperation. In Prabhupada's last instructions or expressing his desire for the future of the movement, he said something to the effect that the test of your love for me will be, after my disappearance, in how well you cooperate. Again, my words, cooperation means for us is keeping Srila Prabhupada and Krishna in the center. We should, just like in these prayers that I'm going to read, the Narottam Das is actually crying and begging to experience and to be in the atmosphere of Vrindavan, to serve Radha and Krishna. And even Srila Prabhupada in his prayer is desiring to go in the early morning and frolic in the cowherd pastures with Krishna. So I thought that we should cry and hanker for that time when we all can serve in unity and dance and sing in ecstasy the glories of the Lord. Just like we recently had Rath Yatra in Philadelphia. I was very fortunate to dance and sing with my dear godbrother Vishnu Gadar Prabhu and many other devotees. And I think most of the material misconceptions in our lives is just sort of dissipated. It was just gone. We were just dancing and singing, experiencing the Vaikunta on the streets of Philadelphia. And I guarantee if you take your mind off the hearing and chanting and seeing the deity, the material energy rushes right back in. Then you start seeing the material things. But for the most part, devotees were focused. And I remember from Rath Yatra in Philadelphia in 1975, how I may be wrong, but seems to me that most of the devotees were turned around looking at Srila Prabhupada and the deities on the Rath Yatra cart. I know I was personally. I couldn't take my eyes off him. And all of us together, hundreds and hundreds of devotees focusing on one purpose, pulling the Rath Yatra cart and pleasing Srila Prabhupada. So that mood of Vrindavan, the temple is supposed to be Vaikuntha. The forest is a mode of goodness, brothels and materialistic places are the mode of ignorance, and the temple is supposed to be Vaikuntha, spiritual. But what is Vaikuntha? As I stated, my own words, Vrindavan, Vaikuntha, land of cooperation. Everyone is cooperating to please Krishna. All the gopis, the cowherd boys, Mother Yashoda, everyone. And in that mood of pleasing Krishna, everyone's happy. No one is deprived of any happiness. So in our Krishna consciousness movement, we will not be deprived of any happiness if we focus on Prabhupada and Krishna. But conversely, if we focus on our individual ambitions and desires, sometimes other than pleasing Prabhupada and Krishna, then we have conflict. Actually, that's my simple, humble assessment. Why are there conflicts even in this movement, which is a divine manifestation of the Lord's mercy? Because probably, most likely, there are too many individual ambitions in this movement. We need to bring it back to the center. I remember we were speaking recently, maybe a month or so ago, at the Krishna Life Center, where all the brahmacharis in Atlanta is distributing books so much, but they invited all Prabhupada disciples to come and share their experiences in book distribution for many, many decades. There was at least 10 senior Prabhupada disciples there. And I remember Sikhi Mahita Prabhu, and by the way, Sikhi Mahita Prabhu now is an authorized ISKCON guru. Send your prayers and blessings for him. But I remember him saying that our only desire during the time that Prabhupada was present was to somehow or another work so hard, distribute so many books that Prabhupada might see our name in the newsletter, as he did when he saw Charu Deshna Prabhu's name, when he commented in a letter that simply wonderful, it is simply wonderful how Charu Deshna has distributed over 200 big books. At that time, that was an amazing achievement. So the focus was how to get the attention of Prabhupada. Here's another small example. Not even with the intention of trying to get the attention of Prabhupada, but that's just the intention of doing a service so perfectly that Krishna would be pleased. So this devotee who was the head cook in Atlanta, he also served in Philadelphia, Ramanot Sukha Prabhu. He was such an expert cook, and especially rasgullas and sandesh. His sandesh was amazing. So Balavanta, our temple president, took Ramanot Sukha's sandesh to Prabhupada in Mayapur. And when Prabhupada tasted it, this is what he said: "Who has made this sandesh? Bring him to me now. Bring him to me right now." And Balavanta said, "Prabhupada, he's back in Atlanta. He can't come right now." But that devotee was so focused on making the best sandesh possible to please Krishna. And ultimately, it pleased Srila Prabhupada as well. So if we make that our focus for our temples, like in Harrisburg or in Atlanta or in Philadelphia, my humble theory is that problems would disappear. But why are there problems? Because too many individual ambitions. And sometimes they're not, many times they're a good intention, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes we just want power. Sometimes we just want recognition. And then we know from Bhagavad Gita, those things are detrimental. Krishna says anything but the things he mentions in chapter 13, 8 through 12, are ignorance. Number one is humility. Humility means not being anxious for the satisfaction of being honored by others. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. So the advice given to us by Srila Prabhupada in his purports, in his life's example are not just things we should tell other people. I remember meeting the wife of Dr. Martin Luther King, the late Coretta Scott King, on the Sankirtan. And I gave her volume 1 of Lila Amrita with Prabhupada and shaved head and all that. But what I did, I explained to her who this person was. And she was so touched. I mean, seriously, I could see it in her eyes. She was so touched by hearing about Prabhupada. She took the Lila Amrita, put it to her chest and said, thank you so much. She was so appreciative. So Prabhupada, we're supposed to follow his example because others seeing us following Prabhupada's example will have a similar response to Coretta Scott King, wife of Dr. Martin Luther King. They will be so inspired by our sense of humility, how we deal with each other. In fact, people notice how we deal with each other. If they notice that we're not showing each other love and respect, they're not going to at all begin to appreciate Vaikuntha. No. They'll just see a stylized version of material society in a religious institution. That's it. You'll see misunderstanding and fault finding and criticizing. The atmosphere in the temple is supposed to be one of susukam kartamabhyam, joyfully performed. Everything should be joyfully performed. All of our activities should be joyfully performed. And how is that? Because we're serving Krishna under the order of Srila Prabhupada. We have no ability to directly serve Krishna. We've been allowed to practice sadhana bhakti, serving Krishna, by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, and by following his advice. He actually one time called he described the temples as hospitals, where we come and the symptoms are diagnosed and the prescriptions are given. We know the symptoms already, Kali Yuga, we know what the symptoms are. And then the diagnosis, and now the medication, chanting Hare Krishna, reading Prabhupada's books, taking prasadam, doing service. We all just have to follow that. If we want to ever truly taste the nectar of the spiritual atmosphere, the spiritual sky atmosphere in this body, in this life, in our interactions with each other. So on that, I just wanted to share a couple of beautiful bhajans from Narottam Das Thakur. And one is very special. And this is Vasanti Ras, Amorous Pastimes in the Spring. Now, I know Vishnu Prabhu and myself, we know this song. Some of you might have heard it. Vrindavana Ramya Sthana. It was made famous by Vishnu Jan Maharaj. Now, I did a little research, and I'm sure Vishnu Prabhu can share some insights on this song as well, but I found in the database, I think it was from the Radha, Radha Damodar, anyway, the history of Vishnu Jan Maharaj. So Madhavisa, formerly Madhavisa Swami, he said Vishnu Jan would make up his own melodies. Prabhupada actually gave him that song, Vrindavana Ramya Sthana, and asked him to compose a melody. He composed this beautiful melody. Vishnu Jan was so intoxicated with kirtan, he would go all day long having kirtan, come back to the temple. So this is considered one of his favorite songs. I don't have a good voice today, so I'm not going to attempt to even sing it. But the first line, Vrindavana Ramya Sthana, and he would sing it so beautifully. I heard him sing it in Atlanta as well. But the translation is what we're going to focus on. Translation is, in the spiritual world is the beautiful place known as Vrindavan, composed entirely of divine touchstones. In that transcendental land are many enchanting temples bedecked with costly jewels, and encircling it are the waters of the river Jamuna, where the royal swans known as Rajahamsa frolic. In the midst of that divine river is a beautiful golden lotus of 100 petals. In the center of that lotus is a golden platform surrounded by 8 petals, and upon those petals are the 8 principal sakis, headed by Lalita and Vishaka. In the center of the surrounding petals, the divine couple presides, seated upon a jeweled throne. In the company of Lord Sham sits the beautiful Radhika. The waves of their beauty and sweetness emanate showers of nectar in the form of their talks, which are filled with a flood of laughter and joking as they address each other. Narottam Das says, may these eternal pastimes overflowing with transcendental joy ever be manifest in my heart. And that's from the BBT songbook. It's very beautiful. So again, back to the purport where Prabhupada says, Srila Narottam Das Thakur, great Acharya, in the preceptorial line of Lord Chaitanya, has said for our benefit that one can perfectly see the Dhammas only when one completely gives up the mentality of lording it over material nature. So what was just described in this beautiful bhajan, it appears that we can have that feeling or experience it or even see it, but not if we maintain the debased mentality of unnecessarily enjoying matter. One must give it up. Give up the mentality of lording it over material nature. So can devotees have a mentality of lording it over material nature? I would say yes, it happens, because from my own experience, I've been in that mood many times. So I have personal experience of trying to lord it over, trying to control. And then by Krishna's grace, some senior or experienced devotee will, out of a loving exchange, say, Prabhu, maybe you should look at it like this. Prabhu, maybe you should think about it like that. This is important. We must always be open to input. If that input sounds like criticism, you have to try to see if it has value in your life, or see if it reflects something that you might be doing or be aware of or become aware of in your own practice. Otherwise, it will be impossible for us to really experience the really sweet taste of chanting Hare Krishna, the really sweet taste of hearing these beautiful, wonderful pastimes and being inspired by them to the point that we change our lifestyle. And there's another beautiful Narottam Das song from Sri Prarthana, his prayers, but there's only one line that I want to share with you. And this song is called Song 27. Hari Hari Arakabe Pali Tibe Dasa. When will I renounce all material impediments and go to Vrindavan Dham? O Lord Hari, when will my life change in this way? And this is a line that I really like. I hope I will be able to change my mode of living in this way. This is translated by my dear godbrother, late Kusha Krata Das from Los Angeles. He translated many, many books of the Acharyas. But that line, I hope I will be able to change my mode of living in this way. We should hanker for that. We should strive for that, to change our mode of living in the mood of Vrindavan. So when we're hearing about the pastimes of Vrindavan, we're seeing it being displayed, we should try to extract from that whatever we can and put it into our lives. We can't imitate the Acharyas. Sometimes devotees have made that sort of mental mistake of trying to imitate. Even Prabhupada. People try to imitate Prabhupada. You can't do that. But you can follow in the footsteps. Mahajano Yena Gatasapanta. We can follow in their footsteps. So the more we take this medicine of chanting Hare Krishna and reading Prabhupada's books, doing nice service with attention and love, then this mood of Vrindavan begins to manifest. There's a story, and I won't tell the whole story, just the essence. It's called The Rabbi's Gift. The quick story is that these priests were living in a temple, church, or whatever, and people stopped coming to the center or to their church, and they were confused what to do. I believe there were 3 of them, and they didn't know what to do to keep the congregation, bring the congregation back. But there was a rabbi who used to come on their property and meditate, doing his Jewish activities. And they had a lot of faith in him. So they deputed one of the brothers to go and talk with him and ask him, give them some advice. The word advice was used here. Give them some advice on what they can do to bring the congregation back, bring the congregation together. So this brother went to see the rabbi and had some wonderful talks on spiritual topics and all that, but he didn't say anything yet about the question he wanted to ask. And then at the end, he said, my dear rabbi, these are the problems that we're experiencing. Do you have any advice? And the rabbi said something like this: one amongst you is the Messiah. Messiah means the supreme person coming down, or Jesus Christ coming down. So the man was very confused. So he went back to the brothers and they wanted to know, what did the rabbi say? And he said, I can't understand this. If he said, one amongst the three of us is the Messiah. And you can figure out the rest of the story. They started looking at each other thinking, I'm not the Messiah. No way, not me. It must be Brother John. And Brother John's thinking, no, it's not me. It must be the other and the other. And they started looking at each other differently. They started respecting each other on such a high level that people started coming back to experience their association. That story was told to us in Alachua during a Grahasta meeting many, many years ago by one senior Prabhupada Mataji disciple. And it just really touched our hearts. The problem is us not expressing enough love to each other. And that's a product of, I hate to use the word ignorance in terms of devotees, but it's just a lack of understanding. We forget even the fact that the super soul's in everyone's heart. We come to the temple, we bow down before the deities, we show humility. Even if the guru comes, we show humility, but with each other, think about it. Krishna's right there in the form of the super soul, and we don't express love to each other. It doesn't really make sense. That means we're continually forgetting. Therefore, we have to continually chant. Why does Krishna tell us Satatam Kirtayanto Mam? Why always chant? Because the ignorance will go away. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Baba Mahada Vipina Vapina. So the ignorance will go away when we're chanting and focusing on the Lord's holy names, focusing on Srila Prabhupada's books and purports, his life, his example of the Acharyas. Darkness goes away. Om Jnana Timirandasya Janan Janan Salakaya. Very, very practical information. But we're meant to apply it. The medicine's given to you by the doctor. It doesn't mean that you take it and put it on the shelf. If you've been convinced that the medicine has value and you recognize that you are in a disease condition and you went to a reputable doctor or hospital or whatever place you go to, and you have trust in them, that you take the medicine and you do it every day. Okay? So in the same way, if we just hear, chant, remember basic practices of devotional service, Shravanam Kirtan, Vishnu Smarana, do it with focus and attention, Maya goes away or moves away, and then we can begin to appreciate the transcendental atmosphere of Vrindavan, Vaikuntha, within our association. So I want to share this real quick, and then we can have some conversation. But this is from Srila Prabhupada's prayer that he wrote on the Jaladuta. Krishna Tava Punya Habe Vai. So I'm just going to read, I think it's the last 3 verses. Yes. And Prabhupada says, O Lord Krishna, you are my eternal companion. Forgetting you, I have suffered the kicks of Maya, birth after birth. If today the chance to meet you occurs again, then I will surely be able to rejoin you. That's number 7. Number 8. Oh, dear friend, in your company, I will experience great joy once again. In the early morning, I will wander about the cowherd pastures and fields, running and frolicking in the many forests of Braja. I will roll on the ground in spiritual ecstasy. Oh, when will that day be mine? And then the last one. Today, that remembrance of you came to me in a very nice way. Because I have great longing, I call to you. I am your eternal servant. Therefore, I desire your association so much, O Lord Krishna. Except for you, there is no other shelter. So that is the actual mood. That's the mood of Srila Prabhupada. And this is during the time when he had some physical difficulties and all that. But he's just longing to be with Krishna, and specifically to be with him, frolicking in the cowherd pastures and fields. That means he wanted to be in that Vrindavan place. So again, my main thought, and thank you for allowing me to speak on this particular verse, is that we as devotees have to follow Prabhupada's instructions, take the medication, follow his advice, and then we will, by the grace of the Lord, be able to live as a community in the Vaikuntha atmosphere. And whoever comes within that atmosphere will be inspired. Do not try to act in such a way to win the favor of people personally, that you want respect. No, that's a very dangerous thing, because I said the first principle of knowledge is humility, not being anxious for the satisfaction of being honored. So watch yourself. And Prabhupada, he says in the purport that one should have a test how he's advancing on these principles given by Krishna. And he said he can use these principles to judge how he's advancing. And the first one is humility. How am I doing with that? So when people see genuine humility, as in the case of Haridas Thakur, as in the case of Srila Prabhupada, the Acharyas, genuine humility, they're attracted because it's attractive to see someone that's actually respectful and humble. For instance, when you see people that are arrogant, proud, boisterous, you kind of shy away from them. But someone that's, at least soft-spoken, considerate, you may become a little attracted. So as devotees, we have that power if we just follow what Prabhupada has given us. And people will flock to our temples, flock to our movement. And they would want to associate with us more and more and more and more to make spiritual advancement. This will attract them to take up the process of Krishna consciousness if we ourselves simply begin to practice more seriously the Vrindavan Vaikuntha mood. So I'm going to stop there. And hopefully there's some comments or questions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for my description of this lecture is like a soul-searching lecture. It really talks about the things we need to look at. And right from the purport itself, if we want to see Krishna real, then we need to detach from all these material things that we've given so much priority to or attention to. We said the Narottam Das Thakur's, well, he's wonderful. So many songs, and we can go on and on and on and on. You mentioned his name as a whole chapter. But anyway, so the devotees, if you're interested in making some comments, hopefully Vishnugadha Prabhu, who is on here, can start us off with comments or questions or realizations. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I knew he was on.
No realizations.
Yeah, go ahead, Vishnugadha Prabhu. Hare Bol.
I was just going to say that it's probably the bhajan that was referred to in the purport was the one that's called Lala Samayi.
Oh, okay.
Gauranga bolite habe pulaka sharir. Hari Hari bolite nayane babeni. And then the third stanza is Bishaya Chadiya Kabe Shuddha Habe Man Kabe Hamaherabo Sri Brindaban. Bishaya Chadiya means giving up sense gratification. When will I give up sense gratification? Shuddha Habe Man, with purified mind. Kabe Hamahera Sri Vrindavan. Then I'll be able to see Vrindavan.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a technical thing. I mean, you quoted such nice other bhajans from Narottam, which has similar things.
Yeah, I wrote it down. I'm going to go back and read that after the class. Thank you for bringing that up. That's beautiful.
There might be a purport that Srila Prabhupada has on that. Some of the bhajans that he sings and they're recorded, there's a purport that goes along with it. Just like, so it might be a purport with that one. I'm not sure.
Let's go Ranga Balite Habe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is a purport on that one. Yeah, it's fantastic. Anasuya, I think you had your hand up. Or you open your microphone. Was that Anasuya?
You recognize my voice, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisance. But I was trying to put some kale in the pan. Cooking for the Lord.
For the
Prabhu,
deities,
yeah. Very nice class, Prabhu, and it's so nice to always hear the pastimes of Prabhupada, his glories, his teachings, and it's becoming more and more important, becoming more and more evident how important it is. And when you were speaking about your, when you talked about that whole, why we choose to hear from Prabhupada, and you were talking about, many people haven't met Gandhi, but they believe in him. And it took me to my Christian days, I never met Jesus Christ. Didn't even know any of the 12 disciples that sat at the Lord's Supper, and the list can go on, but we believed in the Bible.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, wow, it's, what is it? And then, leaving, and then switching from Christianity to Krishna consciousness and believing, of course, I never met Prabhupada. I've only seen videos, movies. Then what is it, Prabhu, that is the block for people to believe in Prabhupada, that whom they have never seen or met, but it's so easy for them to believe others from, whatever religion or historian or political figure or whatever, but they can believe that so easily. But what is it that's the block from people not able to accept or surrender to Prabhupada's teachings?
My simple answer, they have to experience Prabhupada through us. Like when you talk about Christianity, who is it that connects you to Jesus? The pastor.
The pastor.
Minister, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's how people become convinced. So I think back on this, what I learned many years ago in trying to improve my book distribution, learning sales techniques and all that. And I heard this phrase, selling is a transference of conviction. So we're trying to convince people about the philosophy, but if they can't see it in us, it's going to be hard for them to see it. Because like you said, they didn't see Prabhupada. They didn't meet Prabhupada. Vishnu Gada and myself, we met Prabhupada. We saw Prabhupada. We heard Prabhupada, but all of you didn't. So if Vishnu Gada Prabhu and myself don't exhibit the qualities that Prabhupada revealed that we already had, and he gave us the process to bring those qualities forward through chanting, if we can't demonstrate that in our lives, people are going to have a really difficult time understanding a man they never met. And he's from India. We're trying to convince these Western people or whatever about Prabhupada. It has to be shown in our example. Example is better than precept. Yat yata charati shresthat, whatever great man does, common men follow. All those things are practical, very practical statements. So I would say what would help those people break through is seeing Prabhupada in us, not seeing us in us. Like they meet us and all they see is our ego. Boom. That Balabhadra's got a big ego. I don't want to be around that guy or Anasui or this or that. People should want to be in our association, and they should see that we are absolutely sold out to Prabhupada. There's no doubt in our heart. Otherwise, how are we going to convince them? If we still have doubts, there's no way. We have to have that conviction. And I tell people this many times. I said, I don't think that Srila Prabhupada at the age of 69 got on that boat, or 70, came all the way to America to find an idiot like me and lie to me? You're kidding. No way he would do that. Or even the massive devotees came all the way to lie to us. So in my little simple logic, I've concluded Prabhupada didn't lie. So if he didn't lie, I need to follow what he said. So that's how I look at it, Anasuya.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Adi Bo.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Any other devotees want to share or ask a question? We should get up, Prabhu's hands up again. Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Haribo, and my sense is, in addition to not accepting what Balabhadra Prabhu said about Srila Prabhupada being appreciated through the devotees in the Hare Krishna movement, also it's important for devotees, I believe, since they may not have personal experience in meeting Srila Prabhupada physically, but of course there's his instructions, and there's also his activities that he manifested on this earth.
Yes.
And by reviewing those, studying those, hearing them, trying to understand them, one can appreciate more Srila Prabhupada's position, his selfless devotion to his spiritual master. And even if, we don't always make the mark, Srila Prabhupada was an incredible example of that. And anyway, just I'd recommend. Sometimes people think, well, it's maybe a little bit sentimental to study Prabhupada's books or those aspects of Prabhupada's pastimes, but I think it's essential. It's essential for the movement, because we don't understand who Srila Prabhupada is and how he did things, and that's the best example we have. Our example might be okay, but Prabhupada's example is perfect.
Wow. Thank you, Boo. Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Any other comments? Maybe I could just throw in one question myself. So from the purport, we have to get away from so much attachment to material before the things like the replica of Vrindavan or Gokul in India will not look just material to us, but they will be able to appreciate the spiritual nature of it. There may be different ways to do it. I would like to ask a commentary from you about some of the practical things that we could do in order to be able to go deeper into Krishna consciousness. The reason I'm asking is it's there. Nobody's banned from seeing it. So why is it that we're just going to accept the way we see things materially and stop there when in fact we can see deeper into it? It's being told to us. So how to get there? That's my question.
Yeah, we can share a couple of thoughts. I think Sarvanga Sundar Damodar Prabhu he wanted to say something. Let's see what his. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. Please and Prabhupada. I just wanted to say that it's always very nice to hear from you. So I wish that you come more often on Bhagavatam classes and more often to Harrisburg as well.
I'm doing my due diligence work on that, Damodar. But Balabhadra Prabhu is very much aware of that.
Thank you. Very kind, very kind. So, Preacher Prabhu, you're saying practical ways to
be able to go from, just seeing from the material standpoint, which many people have, myself included, to see the deeper spiritual connection when we go to places like Vrindavan, or for that matter, even see the deity like that.
Yeah. Well, like Vishnu was pointing out, looking at the life of Srila Prabhupada and then trying to implement, because that's what people do. It's like you have to be practical. People look at the lives of great persons and they implement certain aspects of their lives in their own lives. They study Abraham Lincoln, or they study Mahatma Gandhi. I mean, Martin Luther King's wife, the late Coretta Scott King, I was invited to the King Gandhi celebration in Atlanta. And she said on stage, she was a keynote speaker, my husband, Martin Luther King, was a disciple of Gandhi. Those are her words exactly. Because she explained that King was at a crossroads. He didn't know exactly which way to go, violent, nonviolent. And he studied the life of Gandhi, who he never met. Although he went to India, he never met Gandhi. But just by reading Gandhi's writings and his studying his life, the whole civil rights movement escalated because of Gandhi's influence on King. This is a historical fact. His wife described it. So, you know, what is it? Well, we take Prabhupada seriously. How do you take him seriously? Study him. Lila Amrita is there, videos are there. Every day when I wake up, I read Bhagavad Gita, and then I'm studying Prabhupada's letters. There's like more than 7,000 letters. So I'm studying his letters to see how he dealt with things, I just was reading the letters from 1940 or 1944, and how Prabhupada dealt with trying to get support for his desire to preach is interesting. The words that he would use, how he would talk to different people and different organizations and trying to get their cooperation. So I'm learning, and I'm trying to implement what I'm hearing. So every day, don't let a day go by without looking at the example of Srila Prabhupada and reading his books. If you let a day go by, you have no one to blame but yourself. And why that day was filled, Maya, or you were attracted. And also, most importantly, chanting his 16 rounds very carefully. Very carefully. That's what Rupa Goswami says in the Nectar of Instruction. Simply, carefully chanting these really sweet names every day, carefully. Then Maya's still going to come, because Maya's like a football coach. The football coach is going to just pound you until you become a good player. He'll send the other player and they'll knock you around. They'll pick you up and throw you around. Like for me, when I started football in high school, I lasted 3 days. This is not for me. I'm not going to tolerate all this being thrown around. I'm going to play music in the band. It's a lot more safer. So Maya will test you over and over again. Jayapataka Maharaj explained one time, you will be tested and tested and again tested and tested and tested. And then he said like this, one day there'll be a big test and then no more test. So when I think about his condition that he's in, I'm thinking, wow, I can't think of a test bigger than that. That's pretty big. But that was the mood. So accepting all these things that are happening to us, that Krishna has arranged them for our benefit to make progress, to see if we can hold on to Krishna consciousness in the midst of a storm. Like some people during the recent hurricanes, they wanted to stay in their homes and see if they could just hang on. And some of them did, but some of them didn't. Many people died. But some people had the conviction, I'm going to stay in my home. I'm going to fight this. So we have to have that conviction. I'm going to stay in this Krishna consciousness. And Maya's going to come out to me every single day. I remember Charudeshna, great Charudeshna Prabhu from Atlanta. He was teaching us as brahmacharis. He said this, I know I'm in Maya, but I've got to go on Sankirtan for Prabhupada. And that was such an inspiration. Maya might be there, but I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop my service. I'm not going to stop as Anasuya's cooking, making some nice breakfast for the Lord. No matter what, she's going to finish it. She's determined to get it done. And we're inspired seeing that. It's like, yeah. So in the same way, when you look at someone like, say, either myself or Vishnu Gada has been here since 1971, I believe, and I joined in late 73. The only question you really should ask us, how the heck did you guys stay around so long? I mean, you don't think we had Maya chasing us? So you can learn from us what we have done to stave off Maya. So what I do every day, I wake up in the morning, say a little prayers, and then I read Bhagavad Gita, then I read Prabhupada's letters, then I chant my japa, then I have to go through whatever I have to do. Then I come back in the evening, try to do some more reading, try to do, the other thing I do every morning, because you asked for some practical things. Every morning I listen to Prabhupada's lecture. And what I do for the devotees, I send it out on 3 WhatsApp groups and on Facebook. And I'm wondering, I'm just sending it out there in the universe, I don't know. The devotees always tell me, yeah, this morning Prabhupada said, as if Prabhupada said it, and then he did say it. They start talking like, well, I heard Prabhupada say this morning. Prabhupada's now becoming real to them. I heard Prabhupada in the class this morning. Isn't that amazing? They're referring to Prabhupada Bhagavatam class or Chaitanya Charitamrita class as if he's there, because he is. So those are things that I do every day. Prabhupada's lecture, I don't miss a day. Sorry, I just cannot miss a day. And one Mataji told me the other day, when I hear Prabhupada's voice, I just become so inspired just hearing his voice. So anyway, those are a couple things. Sukadar, if you have any things you want to share with them, practical things that you can do every day to increase your remembrance of Prabhupada and Krishna and all that. You want to share anything?
Well, as I mentioned, there's memory books.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada's memory books. There's about 5. I mean, there's a lot of information and examples in there that spurs my thoughts about Srila Prabhupada. And there's probably more than a dozen biographies of Srila Prabhupada. I mean, we have the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, which is the first and considered the authorized biography, although there have been some edits to that because of some things were left out or misplaced, misdone. But also, there's, like, for example, the biography by Kurma, which is in Australia and New Zealand. In the Lilamrita, there's only like 3 pages about that. And in his book is like 600 pages. So the teachings example and is really very, very vast. And then there's Giriraj Swami's book, which is, especially geared about Srila Prabhupada's activities in India. The Lilamrita is more, I mean, there is parts in India, but it's mostly about the Western preaching, but this is preaching in India. And then there's Mukunda Maharaj's book about which gives details that you don't find in others, about the starting of the movement in 26 Second Avenue and the beginning of the movement in San Francisco. So, I mean, it's just, to me, it's just incredibly fascinating and captivating how Srila Prabhupada did things in those cases. Yeah.
Wow. You just reminded me of Prabhupada's first airplane ride, because we read the Lilamrita as part of our monthly Prabhupada festival at this center, Lakshmi Nrsimha Cultural Center. And we were just blown away that Prabhupada first flew from New York to San Francisco. And when he flew over San Francisco, he saw the houses. He said they looked like little matchboxes. We were just laughing like anything. And Prabhupada, first time on an airplane, and I never even thought about it. He didn't come to America on an airplane. He had never in his life flown on an airplane. This is the first time. And then when he left New York, there was very few devotees there the day he left. Everybody was gone, work, this, that. It's just, I forget how many, it was 2 or 3 that were there. And then Prabhupada went to San Francisco. Like Vishnu Gada was saying, those pastimes are just amazingly attractive. Equal to, greater than any of the nonsense books we've read throughout our lives. All these books we may have read. I used to go to the bookstore a lot, buy different books on philosophy, culture, this and that, for specific purposes. But Prabhupada's life story, incredible. So I highly recommend, along with Vishnu Gada recommending, that everyone spend some time reading Lilamrita, studying Prabhupada's life, and then applying what you read in your own life. That will help.
As you mentioned, there's a personal aspect, a charm, and an attractiveness that it's not easy to get. At least for me, it's not easy to get just through the philosophical explanation, which is certainly exceedingly important, and I'm not minimizing it, but the personal aspect of Srila Prabhupada's interaction with his devotees and others is such a charms the heart.
Oh my God, you keep bringing up so many memories of Lila Amrita. So another time we were reading, Prabhupada's at 26th Avenue, yeah. And then the man that, no, was there? Or was it Bowery? I think it's 26th Avenue. The man that owned the building, Prabhupada would sometimes take out the trash. This is in Lila Amrita. Take out the trash and to help that man, for maintaining cleanliness in that place. And then it said one day that man who owned the building came into the temple room. Yeah, it was 26th Avenue. He came in the temple room with his shoes on. And Prabhupada said, it is okay, no problem. Because he was recognizing this man's lack of etiquette or understanding. He didn't put pressure on him. He just really accommodated the people that were around him to a certain degree. You don't let people go on the altar and push the deities, but Prabhupada was such a gentleman, so accommodating, so humble, but at the same time, very powerful when it came to defending Krishna and this movement. So these are all things that you learn. Example is better than precept, but precepts and examples are useless if you don't put them into practice. You put all these things, just take one thing a day if you can. But if you don't read, you don't listen and study, then you're not going to be inspired. And if you don't do service with attention, bhajatam pritipurvakam, with love, and then the knowledge and the understanding all starts to come. It all starts to make sense. It all falls in place. And just put those things in your life, and then there you go. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We're past the hour. I had a personal situation that I wanted to describe, but
Go ahead.
Anyway, all right. So this was at Gitanagari, in the old temple room. We hadn't built the new temple. My sister, material sister, she's Catholic. We all started Catholic before I came to Krishna consciousness. So she came to visit, and for the first time, she came in the temple room, and she's quite observant, but she won't say anything. Later on, outside the temple, she asked for different things, the deities and so on. I explained it a little bit, and then it says, "But what about that man that was sitting? Looked like a throne, like that." You know, she did not. She's Catholic now. They know about statues,
Yeah.
and she did not recognize Srila Prabhupada as a Murti. She recognized him as the man that was sitting. This is she thought it was real. She really thought it was real. So I thought it was quite interesting, for somebody who isn't a religion that they know about statues so much, and she saw Prabhupada as real. I just wanted to throw that in there anyway. Hare Krishna.
Well, my daughter-in-law, wonderful. I love her so much. So they came to the temple on a Sunday with a program, and she was standing outside the window because outside the temple on the front porch, you can see Prabhupada sitting on the Vyasa. Well, she was looking at it. She said, she calls me Dad. She said, Dad, when's he gonna move? I mean, I just feel so bad for him. He's just sitting there with when's he gonna move? He's such an old man. When's he gonna move? I had to explain to her. Like you said, it's a statue, deity, whatever. She said, oh my God, he looks so real. So that's another thing. Prabhupada, he's right there for us, for the whole world. Just have to share him with Haribo.
Haribo. Okay. Thank you. Okay. You want to say something?
I
go ahead.
wanted to share something. Vishwagala Prabhu was saying how devotees that know Prabhupada, met Prabhupada, it's not like they saw him every day or they met him every day. And I was remembering the pastime of Koladri Prabhu when we went to New Vrindavan 2 weeks ago, and he was sharing the old Vrindavan house where Prabhupada stayed, and he was sharing pastimes about it and how he joined. He said that he was a pre-med student. He came for 1 day with no clothes, nothing packed, and he stayed and he never went back. And it was like a very sweet pastimes, like really amazing. Then at the end of the tour, lack of a better word, I went up to Koladri Prabhu and his wife, whom I first met the first time, his wife, and I asked both of them. I said, at first I asked his wife, I said, what made you stay? And she said the focus was Prabhupada.
Yes.
That's what she said. She said that it was difficult, it was torturous, it was cold, it was austere, but the focus was Prabhupada, is what she said. And I will never forget her words when she said that, And because when they were sharing the difficult times in New Vrindavan, the late 60s, anybody would run away, Prabhu.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Within like few hours, stayed. He says, I came for a day, but I never went back. They gave me clothes from the barn that they and he said, I stayed. And so I dropped out of school. And I was like, oh, yeah, he didn't complete his pre-med. Of course, he has children, and one of his kids, he said he became a medical doctor, one is an attorney, something like that. But yeah, he said the focus was Prabhupada, and he was sharing beautiful pastimes, some were difficult to hear, and some were like, wow, wow, wow. But yes, the focus was Prabhupada. So I wanted, that still stays with me. I wanted to share that, Haribo.
Thank you. Sarvanga, Prabhu?
Yeah, you probably have the last word now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribo.
While you were speaking towards the end, I just realized or remembered one point you gave in the class this morning. Towards the start, I guess you said Prabhupada is there. Prabhupada is there in his books. So it's very important that we understand that it's not just for outsiders or the public or for distribution. It is very much for us as well as devotees in Krishna consciousness. That always stays with me, that these books are not for just distribution, they are for us to read as well. And the conviction is to be transferred. First, we need to have the conviction in the process, and then we can transfer that. Otherwise, we cannot do that. So that was one thing I liked the point. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Thank you, Balabhadra Prabhu. Always very lively lecture. We have so much to think about and so much that we get reminded about in our spiritual life. And thank you, Vishnu Prabhu, also for your input. Thank you, buddies, for coming on. And
I want to ask Balabhadra Prabhu a request, and then I promise I won't talk again. Balabhadra Prabhu and Vishnupada Prabhu, if both of you being direct Prabhupada, the disciples, we humbly request the both of you to please pray for us so that we can always stay focused on Srila Prabhupada and his teachings. And I remember my spiritual master saying this many years ago in Gita Nagari. He says, he told all his disciples, all of us, I don't know whether it was a darshan or a Sunday class or morning class, but he said that make yourself worthy so that I can offer you as one of the flowers on Prabhupada's garland. I'll never forget his words. So please pray for us, Prabhu. Please. My humble request.
That's Vishnu Jamraj said something similar in Atlanta. He said we should make a garland of Jiva souls and offer it to Prabhupada.
Wow.
That's a beautiful mood. So yeah, Bhattacharya Maharaj had that mood, wonderful mood. So nice. Thank you. Well, I'll definitely pray. But you have to pray for me as well.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Haribo.
When check up with the
Kripa Sindhuve Bacha.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. All glories to Srila
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Nupu Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.